So a lot of people are asking how to be successful in the podcasting industry. And we are excited and fortunate tonight because our guest certainly has something he can say about that. But not only is he a podcaster, but he's also a business leader, an entrepreneur, and so many more hats that he wears. And you get to have a sideline view as we have this amazing conversation with our guest. I'm not going to tell you who he is yet, but you've seen the commercials and you've seen the little thumbnails. Glad that you are here with us. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. And here on the channel, I educate, I encourage, and I empower you to take charge of your health, take charge of your life, avoid complications, and create the life you've always wanted, going to the next level. And you are with us once again for what we're calling Vlogmas, right? Vlogmas 2022. This is a time when content creators come aside. They get to expand, improve, grow. And the benefit to us is that we get to tweak, right? We get to do some different things. And the benefit to you, our audience, our clients, our customers, our patients, is that you get to see us do it. And sometimes you get to see us do it live, right? And you know, it's live and things don't always go the way we want them to go, but we love it, right? And that's what makes this so interesting. So right up above me, you see this logo, Vlogmas. So if you're out there and you see any video, if you see any content, if you see anything that has this logo, that content creator is working within this month in Vlogmas to try to expand and try to improve. So even though you may not normally listen to that content, go to that content, go support them, right? Say, hey, I'm glad that you're out there and glad that you're working and glad that you are trying to improve. So shout out to all my colleagues, all my other content producers who are out there in Vlogmas. Hey, my hat's off to you. Let's do it, right? Let's get it. Let's get it. And so if you're out there, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you are there. Amazing conversation that we are about to have with this gentleman that I've been excited to have on for a while. Okay. So all the rest of the videos that we've done for the month so far are on the channel. We've done videos in the past also. Last month was Diabetes Awareness Month. So we've got about 28 videos that we did, the lives that we did in the month of November. We've got our podcast that we did, or our videos that we did when we did live in August, right? That was developing a better version of ourselves, right? How to find our purpose, how to talk about our why, how to say no without feeling guilty, how to set goals, and all those things are out there. So make sure you get to the channel and make sure that you are looking at those. All right, so enough said about all that, right? Let's get into the meat of what we're here to talk about. Now, Steve Worthy is a gentleman that I met, and I've watched him, right? And I talked about him as a podcaster. But as I mentioned, not only is he a podcaster, but he's also a business leader and an entrepreneur with over 25 years of executive leadership experience. He currently leads Worthy Retail U to assist retailers in growing. And he also is the CEO and coach of Podcasters Live, which has a special place in my heart. And we'll talk about that later on, right? So without any further ado, let's get Mr. Steve Worthy up on the stage. Steve, thank you for coming through, man.
Dude, what's going on, man? It has been long overdue. I am stoked to be here to have this conversation with you tonight, with you and your audience, man. Let's go ahead and get after it.
Sure, man. Yeah. I was telling you, has it been almost a year and a half, maybe? I was saying 2 years, but maybe a year and a half since we met each other.
No, I want to say a year and a half. I want to say maybe two, because I think we probably did Lita in April. Right.
That's right.
Right. So so it's probably been, and I've been watching you, blossom and grow your channel, grow your message, man. So it's probably been almost 2 years. It'll probably be 2 years in April.
Coming up.
Yeah, that we connected, and then we've both been kind of doing our thing, and then finally, here we are, man. Finally, both on the mic at the same time.
There you go. And I'm excited about it, man. So let's do this, right? We're gonna tell your story. We're gonna talk about podcasting and so forth. Why don't you just take a minute and tell the people who Steve Worthy is?
Yeah. Well, I am one of those very fortunate people who have found their trifecta in life, which is leadership, podcasting, and live streaming. The leadership aspect started probably when I was actually in the Air Force and forced to take on different leadership roles in the Air Force. And unbeknownst to me, they really shaped who I was as an individual, as a young leader, as a person, and they moved me into this love and this passion for what I just call leadership, because leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And then that just moved myself into different aspects of my life where I was actually teaching classes, how to start a business, connecting with different leaders as well, helping them from a mentorship, sponsorship standpoint. All of that stuff led into me running into a good friend of mine, starting a podcast in 2007, fell in love with the medium. We did that from 2007 to 2012. And then started podcasting again, probably 2017. Fell in love with live streaming about 2 or 3 years ago, and I've just been moving through that medium ever since. And we started Podcasters Live to actually help podcasters understand a little bit more about themselves so that they can figure out where they need to go to get discovered. So one of the biggest things that podcasters always say is that no one's watching. And so we try to help them understand about gear, the quality of content, and also how to help be discovered. The business side, like I said, started years ago in retail. Just finished up a long stint as a retail exec, and here I am. Excited to be here tonight.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay. So there's a lot to pack up in those few words that you just
lot, man, lots.
A lot to unpack. So now we're both from New York. And so, I think that's why there was that connection, man. Because anytime I meet anybody, and it could be wherever, as soon as they say, man, I'm from New York, it's like there's this instant bond that we have.
It's true. It's true. Everywhere you go, like when I like we were talking like off stage, like when I first left, New York, and I lived in Charlotte, and I would go to like a Hornets game. Only time I really went was when the Knicks played, even though my Knicks suck, right? But
watch it.
It's just I know, man. Come on, I'm a realist, man. But it's just we just come out to Woodworks, and we just bond and we just connect. I think it's just the lifestyle and the mindset and the perspective that we have. So that's what it is.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So podcasting, and we'll get to podcasting because that's going to be a big component of what we talk about. But tell us your story. So you're in New York. Yeah. You're growing up. What did Steve Worthy want to be and want to do prior to life kind of helping to direct you?
Here's the crazy part. I always wanted to be an air traffic controller. And this is the funny story. I remember, and we're probably around the same age. I don't know if you remember the air traffic controller strike. I want to say it was like in the early 90s. And I just had my heart went out to the air traffic controllers because I just felt that their job was so, powerful, and that they actually had to strike to get better wages and all these other things. And I literally just at that moment in time fell in love with the idea about being an air traffic controller. And unbeknownst to me, I ended up going into the Air Force, not being an air traffic controller, but being a crew chief. So I ended up having oversight for my own planes, KC-135s. But the idea about being an air traffic controller, of helping people get from where they are to where they need to be, has always been the underpinning of kind of my leadership. Whether it's my coaching, whether it's podcasting, it's the same thing. And so I think that passion for being an air traffic controller has manifested itself in a different world, in a different light, but it's still there. It's helping people get from where they are to where they need to be.
Man, that's beautiful. I'm glad that you said that you brought that into what you wanted to be before, because often people, they have these dreams and they have the goals, and it goes down a different path, but they don't see that sometimes that path can also use what the skills are that they have. They're like, well, I do this, but I'm in this totally different field, but they don't realize they can transfer.
100%. I think the idea for an air traffic controller was around the organization and strategy of how to get all these planes to work in unison. And I think it's the same thing when I talk to people, whether it's from a coaching standpoint, the leadership piece is helping them get all of their ideas, concepts, and who they are kind of not just so much in a row, but in unison, so that way they can really be the best version of themselves and they can move forward. Because the tendency is that we pull ourselves in one way or the other, but in actuality, you can do both. I struggled for a long time with whether or not I was going to do retail or the retail leadership, or I was going to do podcasting. And I just said, I'm going to do both because that's who I am. Those are aspects of me. And so, we can probably talk about niching down and all this other stuff, but I realized that this is who I am. These aspects of my life, and I'm not going to run from them. I'm just going to figure out how to make them all mesh together.
Oh, that's beautiful that you were able to do that. All right, so flash forward. So you had this goal, this dream. You're in the military. Things change, right?
Yeah.
And you were in service for how long?
I only did 4 years. I did 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. There's 4 years, and I'm imagining that you developed a lot of leadership skills in the military, right? Because really, that's one of the ideas that they push, that you're a leader, even though you've got a chain of command, you've got to be able to be self-sufficient, in case something happens.
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting story, is that I didn't want to be a leader. I was very happy, even in high school, one of those smart dudes. I was very happy with kind of being just enough at the front, but not to lead, because I didn't want that responsibility. And when I went into the Air Force, I had TIs that would immediately put me in these positions of leadership. And I ran away from it so fast until this one time I couldn't run away from it. I was squad leader at the time, and my TI, we were coming back from second clothing issue, and I started doing something from a marching standpoint that he didn't like. And he said, "Worthy, next time you do it, you're not going to be squad leader anymore." And I said, "Oh, sweet." In my head, I was like, "Sweet." And I started, because you right out of New York, you don't know how to march, you bebopping. And so I'm bebopping a little bit, and he kicks me to the back and said, "You're not squad leader anymore." But when we get back to the squadron, he calls me into the office, and he says something to me that to this day sticks out to me. And I talk to people about this all the time. He said, "Worthy, leadership will always find you out." He said, "When you're called to lead, you need to lead." And I didn't realize that at that point in time, him and other people saw different things in me from a leadership standpoint that I didn't see in myself. And so he said, "Well, you're not squad leader anymore, but now you're latrine queen," meaning that you have to be responsible for the cleanliness level of the entire bathroom for the squadron. So lesson number one, from a leadership standpoint, is that when you're called to lead, you figure out how to lead. And that was like leadership lesson number one. And that's been something I've been kind of, hanging my hat on and moving forward in that mindset ever since.
Wow. Now I want you to say that again. Leadership will always call you out or find you out?
Will find you out. So if there's something inside of you that somebody sees, if there's a leadership quality, and when you are called to lead, you need to figure out how to lead. You need to figure out what it is that person may see in you, or how to figure out how to lead. So I didn't know leadership. When I was promoted as latrine queen, one of the first things I realized what I needed to do was like, okay, the goal was to keep the bathroom clean, period. Like, how do I do that? Because we have 50, 60 dudes. How do I keep this bathroom clean? Then I started realizing that we had to segment. We had to shut off different parts of the bathroom. I had to get people who were smarter than me on my team. I had to get some muscle, because I wasn't the biggest guy, so I had to get some muscle, some people that I could actually like, "Hey, the bathroom's closed. You're Worthy said the bathroom's closed. The bathroom's closed. You got to go somewhere else to use the bathroom," right? So figuring out all these different nuances of leadership was the creative side of me. But leadership found me out. It was something that I knew that inside of me I always wanted to do, but I ran away from it. And when I got put into the position to do it, it just came up, and it just started manifesting itself, and it's been doing it ever since.
Man, that right there, I'm gonna write that down. I got a piece of paper here where I copy these things when I'm talking. Leadership will always find you. That is a gem, man, right there. Because I think so often, do you think that people sometimes struggle because they're fighting against that leadership, but it keeps calling them to the front?
keeps calling them. It keeps calling them because so you're in leadership for two reasons, whether it's the responsibility or for the reward. The reward. So let me speak that out. You're in leadership for two things: the responsibility or the reward. A lot of times we get so fixated on the reward that we don't realize that there's a massive level of responsibility that's associated with being a leader, and we run from that responsibility because guess what? It's going to require different things of us. It's going to require time. It's going to require for us to communicate differently. It's going to require time for us to take the time to learn about people in order to get the best out of them. That is some of the hardest aspects. But the hardest aspect of leadership is leading yourself first, period. Understanding how to lead yourself first, whether it's discipline in how you eat, how you live, how you spend, relationships, all of those things. If you don't know how to lead yourself first, then you're going to have a hard time trying to lead anybody else. So those are some of the thoughts that we have around those ideas, those concepts.
Wow. So it's going to call you. You've got to develop within yourself those abilities. And sometimes you got to get some training, right, to kind of get those ideas and those systems in place so that you are able to lead.
100%, and feedback, right? And the biggest thing too, why people don't want to lead, is the feedback side of it. It's because you're gonna suck at something. You're gonna screw. I mean, I connect with people all the time, and one of the things that they always tell me, people that I've mentored or sponsored, is that, Steve, you've told me more about the times that you failed than the more times than you were successful. And I just find that there is richness in understanding why you failed and then how to not fail again, maybe in that vein, but you're still going to fail in certain ways. And so I think making sure that you are receptive to the feedback, because sometimes, as New Yorkers, we got thick skin anyway. So I'm okay with the feedback, but a lot of other people aren't, they're not accustomed to the feedback. I think the military helped me with that too, so that when I got into corporate America, the feedback that they would give me, it wasn't as harsh as they thought it would be. They're like, okay, I got to tell you something really straight, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll fix that. So I think the military did help me with that idea of, receiving feedback.
Awesome. All right. So now we're out of the military. You're back on land, as it were, and your life is about to go. What's going on? Where's Steve Worthy mentally, emotionally? Where are you at that point?
Yeah, so Steve Worthy just finished up his undergrad in accounting, and I was heading back to New York because the accounting jobs, it was the big six back then, and accounting jobs were paying really well, and I lasted literally 5 months in accounting. I couldn't stand it. I hated it. I was in a cubicle looking at spreadsheets, trying to make stuff balance. It just wasn't me. I ended up taking a trip to Charlotte, North Carolina to visit family, and ended up coming up into this coffee shop that was called Caribou Coffee. And I was there for like probably about 4 or 5 days. And went into the coffee shop, met the manager, and we just started connecting. And she said, "You got to meet my boss. I like your personality. You got to meet my boss." I met her boss. He came in for a visit, and he was like, "How long are you going to be in town for?" And I was like, "I'm going to be in town for the next 4 or 5 days, 3 or 4 days." And so his boss ended up coming into town. We ended up playing golf together, not knowing, unbeknownst to me, that entire 18 holes was really just a job interview. And they offered me a job to be a district manager in training with Caribou Coffee, like on the spot. Didn't have any idea what the coffee business was or anything like that. So just immediately on the spot, they offered me the job, and I accepted. Within a couple of weeks, I was actually down in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the gourmet coffee industry that I had no knowledge about as well.
Man, isn't that amazing that, and this goes back to maybe that first idea that leadership will call you out, will find you, that wherever you are, and it doesn't matter what the industry is, 100%. If you have the ability, people are putting you in, like, man, I have nothing I don't even know about coffee, and here I'm helping lead coffee. What?
100%. I mean, because it's multi-unit. So I think I would have at that time. I think I started with eight cafes, but when I was in the service, I had oversight for two planes, and so multi-unit, if you will. I don't know, 40-60 million dollar, maybe planes, probably even more than that. But I had oversight from a 18-year-old until I left. And so that role and response, plus I was in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, all of those different experiences matured me probably more so than the normal 22-year-old. And so I think I always presented older, plus my voice has been deep since I was probably 16, probably 14. And so I've always presented older than what I really am. But to your point, yeah, I think that helped. But I also think that me stepping into the leadership prowess, if you will, that I had, just opened up those doors for me as well.
Wow. So flash forward, okay?
Yeah.
So you're in coffee and you're developing your leadership. You're back in the civilian world. How did you get into it? And I'm trying to move into worthy retail, right? So how did that develop? How did those 25 years of executive leadership come about?
One of the things that I've always been curious, and I've always wanted to challenge myself. And so anytime a new opportunity presented itself, I tried my best to take it. I had different opportunities with different retailers that would stretch me. Sometimes I had to take a step back, but I knew that I had the leadership to bring myself back up, whether it's to a certain financial level, or from a positional standpoint. Knew I had the wherewithal to do that. And I ended up I did a stint outside of retail in project management, and I worked directly for a CEO, and that changed my world too about leadership, because I was working with so many different business disciplines, telecommunications, IT, pharmaceutical, glasses, you name it. And what we were trying to do, my job was to go into these businesses and figure out their business pain and what was some of their issues, and then present on how we can help solve their business pain using project management principles. So just think about it. I'm arbitrarily picking a company within a different business discipline, going in and then doing my due diligence of figuring out where their business pain is, going in and there, telling them about their business pain, and then presenting the solution. That in and of itself, I didn't think about this until probably about maybe 5 or 6 years after I left. Like, that was a massive undertaking for me to be able to kind of go into a business cold and then talk to them and tell them that their business sucks in a certain way. And then I'm going to help provide a solution. And we were really successful at it. And then I moved back into retail. And so I found that as a challenge, and that experience equipped me for everything else that I was going to do in retail, whether it was opening up different locations, helping Target at the time, helping us expand to Canada for a period of time, moving back to the States. All those different aspects of my journey just helped equip me. And Worthy Retail U, all along that journey, I was mentoring, coaching people all the time. And I finally said, well, shoot, I can get paid for this. And I started having some of my first clients, and it was just natural. And so the morph from being a retail exec to kind of being the coach, for me, just felt seamless, and it's actually still been that way to this day.
Wow. And so as we pivot, or we start to add in now podcasting, right?
Yeah.
If you're talking to somebody out there who is, and they may not even be interested in podcasting, but they are struggling, and they said, life keeps taking me. I'm here for a couple of years. I'm there for 5 years. I'm in this different industry for another few years. What do you say to that person who's on that track right now?
Yeah. My track was intentional. So I did a lot of those things from an intentional standpoint because I wanted the experience. And so if you're not on that track from an intentional standpoint, I still think this holds true is that you need to take as much information out of that situation as possible. You need to stretch yourself in those situations as best as you possibly can. You need to challenge yourself, whether it's with a project, an initiative, talent, um, trying to leverage as much leadership, knowledge that you can, whether it's training that they currently have, whatever it possibly can be. Because if you're not taking advantage of that situation, then when you move to your next one, all of those things are transferable. All those skills, every skill that I've actually been able to obtain has been transferable to everything that I've actually been able to do in life. Whether it's leadership, whether it's communication, delegation, decision making, the ability to see a problem before it even starts, right? All those things are transferable. So take what you can from where you are right now, but also figure out where it is that you want to go. If this is not your home spot, right? Then figure out where you need to go next. But I always say this too: the way that you start a new situation is how you end it. So if you don't end a place abruptly or from a poor standard standpoint and then expect to go to the new place and to have higher standards, because you have to have the consistency and the continuity from where you are to where you go. And here's why: because just like leadership will find you out, the community, the job market, it is very small. You think it's big, but it's small, and your name goes before you. Hear that. Your name goes before you. As much as you don't understand that, and much as you think you're going to be going from this industry to the next, your name still will go before you. So that's why it's important for you to leave correctly so that you can start the next thing appropriately as well.
Wow. So leave well, and I tell people a lot of times, even if you're leaving, try not to burn too many bridges on your way out.
Yeah. Some of my past clients are some of my previous managers, some of my previous leaders, right? And so, yeah, leave right, man, leave right, because next thing you know, they'll get a phone call. Hey, Steve Worthy? Yeah. Oh my gosh, well, he's trying to make a transition over into this market. You never know who knows Dwayne. You never know,
That's right, man.
And so leave right, man, leave right.
And that's why I love back to New York, man. In my neighborhood, so I grew up in Brooklyn, and so I mean,
come on, man, come on. I know where you're going.
Everybody knows everybody from everywhere.
Everybody, man. It's that old, right? It takes a village to raise a child. You get in trouble down the block before you even get home. Your mama and everybody know what you're doing. Like you Joe Worthy's boy, aren't you? He's like, dang, like, man. How you know that? Like, right. It's like you got Miss Jenkins that's on the stoop, and you walk past her all the time. She know everybody's business. So Lincoln is like Miss Jenkins right now.
Yeah, hopefully I got some fellas from New York who watch it right now. One of them actually lives up there in New York, in Atlanta, where you are. Oh, and nice. We used to get into, there's some stuff we got into back in the day. We're not gonna get into that, but it was that idea, and there was a group of us that basically hung out. So we'd get off and you'd go down, play handball down the street.
Skelly's.
There you go. But anyway, enough about that. So let's pull in the podcasting, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned at the beginning that you were able to, is basically the trifecta, so podcasting, retail, leadership. You've been able to put that all together. And what I had on the graphic that I showed is, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Right? So that's that. How did I get here? How did you get into podcasting?
Yeah, great question, man. So we meaning a buddy of mine, we were teaching classes at our church, and we were teaching entrepreneurs how to start a business. And Jerry's from New York too, right? And this is in Atlanta at the time, and we just connected and we just hit it off. And we were like, dude, we need to do something. And we spent like almost every Saturday morning at a coffee shop just talking about something that we can do. And I had a business that I was doing called Worthy Business Solutions, where I was helping people write business plans and marketing plans and SWOT analysis and all of that stuff. And he was doing something very similar. And we were like, well, we need to balance this thing out. So we realized that we were both married at the time. Married, Jerry was 20 years married. I was only 7, I think, at the time. And we said, let's just start a business helping husbands learn how to balance being an entrepreneur and also being a husband. And we started a company, and we was called For Husbands by Husbands. I completely bit FUBU. So everybody from New York, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For us, by us. I completely bit it. For Husbands by Husbands. Yes, I did. And I will say it to this day. But we were helping, it was a concierge service, and we were creating like date nights for husbands. And then we started doing, I did radio in college, a little bit in New York. And I said, we need to do something like on the radio. And so we started doing this thing called Blog Talk Radio. And we did like 4 or 5 episodes. A CEO friend of ours said, hey, have you guys heard about podcasting? And we're like, what is that? He turned us on to podcasting. Man, it was on ever since. You know, we started downloading our audio file, doing RSS feeds, promoting it, pushing it, connecting with different people like all across the country that, you know, your podcasting opened that up for us, where we were speaking to different men's groups all across the country. So podcasting for us just actually opened up a completely different world for us. So that's how we got started doing it from 2007 to about 2012.
Wow. So there are people out there right now who are where you were, right? So they're like, man, there's this thing, and yeah, it would be nice to help this group. I got an idea, but I'm not quite sure how to get it started. I guess the first question, back to a word that you mentioned, what is a niche? What does that mean? Because I hear that all around, and people are like, well, what does that really mean?
It's really a specialty. It is really what do you specialize in, you know? But here's the other thing that growing up in New York that we both know is that a Chinese restaurant isn't just a Chinese restaurant in Brooklyn or in Washington Heights or in or in Harlem, right? A Chinese food in Washington Heights has red beans and rice, and then has plantains, and it has, right? Brooklyn is not just Chinese restaurant, right? It has, roti, right? It has everything. And so just because it could be a niche doesn't necessarily mean that you're not doing other aspects of what you specialize in. So I think the tendency is that we try to niche down so much that we just niche our way out of like something that we really truly enjoy doing and talking about. When I first started the retail leadership with Steve Worthy, it wasn't called that. It was actually called The Worthy Podcast, because I felt like I have a pretty decent last name. I'm just going to be talking about coaching and all this other stuff. And it wasn't until I actually got a podcast coach, and he started talking to me about very similar to what we're doing here. And he started walking me through my career. He said, talk to me about this retail stuff. And I walked him through all of that, and he just saw the immediate passion that I had for it. And he said, okay, dude, next week, come back and have titles. And if you want to have an outline for like 13 episodes, just on retail leadership. And I was like, dude, I don't want to do that. Like, I like talking what I'm talking about. He said, just do it for me. Dwayne, I came back with 40. So I realized at that point in time that is exactly what I've been called to do and to talk about, was not just leadership, was not just this overarching piece, but it was actually retail leadership and focusing in on that. So who's ever out there, you actually will have something that's inside of you that you really, really want to talk about, that you could talk about for days. And if you can figure what that is and push away some of the fluff and some of the stuff that you would like to talk about, but the stuff that you really want to talk about, man, that's where you kind of find your niche. And that's where you kind of push away some of that other stuff.
So you don't have to get rid of the thing that is in you, right? Because some people feel like I gotta get rid of this because that's not what people are looking for. Is there somebody, and I guess this is a question to ask, is there somebody out there that's looking for my content? You know, that's what that person out there is asking right now.
100%.
And how do you answer that question?
100%. I'm telling you this right now. There is somebody waiting to hear what you have to say. That may sound pompous. It may sound like, oh my gosh, well, who are you to be talking like that? And no, there is somebody out there literally waiting to hear what you got to say. You know why? Because they're too afraid to either do what you want to do, which is podcasting, or they're too afraid to admit it, and they don't have anybody to talk to. They don't have anybody that truly understands them, right? So when I do my episodes, like we were talking earlier, when I'm recording my retail leadership on my audio only episodes, dude, I am literally speaking to Susie, the retail leader out there struggling because she's the youngest retail leader and now she's leading people twice her age and she doesn't know what to do. I am literally talking to Jeffrey, who is out there, as a leader who's been passed over twice and he has no clue why he's been passed over, and his team and his supervisors won't tell him why he's passed over, but it's his attitude because he's a jerk. And I'm speaking directly to these people because I know them and I see them, and they message me, right? And I'm not saying those are arbitrary names, but it's in the same vein that when whatever it is that you have to say, there are going to be people out there that are going to resonate with what you have to say. It may not be immediate, but they are going to be out there and they're waiting to hear what you have to say. So it may sound like, oh my gosh, who are you? Dude, dudettes, there's somebody out there waiting to hear what you have to say. Stop wasting time.
Stop wasting time getting it out. But Steve, man, I hear what you're saying, and I'm not trying to niche. I'm trying to do my thing. I'm trying to do what's in me, and I believe there's people out there, but I'm afraid of putting myself out there, or I'm trying to get my content like 100% perfect so that when I show up, then people So that's where I am. So how do you talk to me right now?
Practice. Yes, we're talking about practice, not the game, but we're talking about practice. You have to, if you are unsure about getting out there, you can start your own private Facebook community where you can go and practice some of your content. You can record stuff at your leisure and send it to people that are going to give you some really good feedback. And it could be your family, it could be business partner, it could be somebody, right? But there are so many different ways that you can start to build up your confidence behind closed doors before you get out there. That's just one piece. And here's the other piece, is that your content, even when you start, even after all of that practice that you've done, and the reason I say that is because I did that before I live streamed. I was stalking, if you will, the eCam community for about 5 or 6 months before I actually, jumped off got off the pot and actually started utilizing eCam. I literally was in that community for like 5 or 6 months, just stalking everybody, watching what they did. And then I finally did it. It took me another 3 months to actually literally go live myself after all of that stuff. So said that, myself, Dwayne, we've all been through it. You have to practice. But then once you get out there, your content still isn't going to be perfect at that time. That's why you still go live and you still kind of, your craft is going to be built over time. It's not going to be built over 2 or 3 live streams or podcasts. It's just not.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, I go back and I look at some of my first videos and I almost cringe. I was like, I want to take them down.
I know, man. I got mine up. I remember when my first camera was my iMac, and I had a pretty decent mic because I was doing podcasting at the time, and I sounded great, but the video was horrible. It was just bad, man. And even when I started podcasting again, I go back and listen to some of those first podcasts, I'm like, oh man, it's crazy. And I remember this one time I was, and this is how you have people in your corner. I was behind in my podcast episodes, and so I tried to script my podcast, like read it. I don't normally do that, and I said, okay, this would probably be a quick way for me to do it. And I scripted the podcast out, and I did the podcast. And my buddy Walter called me, and he was like, "Yo," I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yo, I listened to your podcast. Yeah, I can listen to this episode." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." He's like, "Yo, so what?" He's like, "Yo, it sucked." I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? He's like, "Yo, it sucked. Yo, it's horrible." I was like, "What are you talking about?" "Yo, you stop reading, man. That's not you. That's not you." I was like, "Oh, dude, I had to get it out." He said, "Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Do it how you supposed to do it, and it'll come off." And so just having somebody like that in my corner where he was able to like listen to it and it was like, dude, yo, that one sucked. And it's okay. Now I know what I need to do from a live streaming and also from a podcasting standpoint.
Right. Practice, and get out there. So I guess one of the ideas, and maybe you could talk to this for me for a minute. Is it better to have something that's out there that's imperfect than to have nothing out there waiting for perfection?
100%. 100%. Yeah. People will forgive, right? As long as they see there's progress, even with your podcast. So one of the first things that we focus in on when we start to talk to anybody, whether it's in leadership and also in podcasting, is really about who they are, right? And the tendency is that when we start to put stuff out there, we put it out there because we're initially searching for kind of bits and pieces of who we are, and so we will start to throw stuff up against the wall and try to figure out what sticks. Our goal, whether it's a Podcasters Live or Worthy Retail You, is to help you work through that first, so you have a really better understanding about who you are. Because if you don't do that, then you're gonna be just shooting stuff out there, and it's not going to stick, and it's not going to be you. So having said that, once you kind of find a little more about yourself and a little bit more about your mojo and what you want to stand for and what your values are, then yes, absolutely. From this, I'm taking this from a Podcasters Live coaching standpoint, right, or a client standpoint of how we coach our clients, is that once they find more about themselves, then yes, we do encourage them to get out there to actually start to, put content out there, because over time their concept is going to become better. It's going to crystallize. They're going to be a little bit more poignant in what they need to say. They're going to develop what we call content pillars. And there's anybody out there that's starting a podcast or thinking about a podcast and you don't have content pillars, first and foremost, I'm not saying that your podcast isn't going to last, but you're going to start talking about anything and everything. And what your content pillars are things that they're kind of like anchors for your show. So with Worthy Retail You, we have communications, career, and culture. So anything that we talk about, we run it through that, through those filters. And if it's not one of those three or some measure therein, then we don't talk about it. So we don't talk about retail technology. We don't talk about the retail markets, from a stock exchange standpoint. We don't do any of that. That's not part of our core concept. So making sure that you actually have pillars are going to be one of the things that's going to be your lifeline for yourself.
I heard, and I think you were recently, was it you or I forget where, but I heard someone say that really who you are can be defined, but by what you don't do. Right. So I guess that's the idea of the pillars, because you're filtering everything through your pillars, and the stuff that you don't do goes away.
And it does. And you become more comfortable like talking about a certain topic. You're not scrambling and going onto Google and Wikipedia trying to get data points around. Yeah, you're going to get data points on stuff that you like to talk about. But if it's, man, I mean, like I said, I love my Knicks. I love my Yankees, right? I love my Giants, right? But can I have a podcast that will talk about them all day long? Probably not. Probably not. Right now, I could definitely have a podcast that talks about football, meaning soccer. And if, I definitely can do that because that is a passion of mine. And I could talk about that all day long as well. But am I going to do it? No, because I got too much other stuff to do. So, it becomes a matter of like a decision making of really what you want to do. Because man, you remember that those who have kids, remember the movies Incredible and the Incredibles, and the one guy, he wasn't really a superhero. I know I can't remember his name, but he had the spiked hair, and one of the things that he said, because he was trying to turn everybody into supers, he said, when everybody is a super, no one is a super. And I'm like, 100%. When you start chasing after everything's important. Nothing becomes important. So figure out truly what's important for you within that niche, and that is what you're going to be focused in on, and that's where you're going to get your audience is going to focus in and come to you because you're going to be very specific in what you have to say.
Awesome. So you guys had this podcast, FUBU kind of. And by the way, we could probably do an episode, you and I, on sports team in New York, right? We don't have to talk about it for like our entire show, but yeah,
yeah, we should do that.
We should. But so you have this podcast that you guys started. Tell us how Worthy Retail U and podcasters come together, Podcasters Live, right? How did that come about?
Yeah, well, Podcasters Live. Let me start with Worthy Retail U, because we started the Worthy podcast. I was doing the coaching, and my same buddy Jerry, he was the one that told me that I should do a podcast for the coaching business. And I said, I fought against it, and I said, okay, fine, and I did it. And I started out, once again, it was the Worthy podcast, and then when I got the feedback, I changed it to Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. But at that same time, I was actually part of this international podcasting group on Facebook. We would meet probably like once a month or something like that. Podcasters from all over the world, and we were just kind of talking about podcasting. Four of us that really clicked and we really connected. This was in 2000, maybe almost, 2020. I want to say almost 2019. We just kind of went off on our own, and it wasn't anything negative about the big group. It's just that we just clicked. They were all from the UK, and I was the only American, and we would meet once a month, sometimes twice a month on Zoom. And I tell you, Dwayne, we would talk for like 2 hours, 3 hours about podcasting and about what we wanted to do, where we wanted to be. We would help each other with ideas. We would talk about gear. We would just, man, it was just a beautiful thing. And it was early last year, 2021. I was like, man, this needs to be a podcast, like podcasters talking about podcasting. And it just kept eating away at me, And then I was falling in love with live streaming at the same time. I had people talking about discoverability with podcasts, all these things. So it was like all these different forces like hit me. And I remember it was International Podcast Day, September 30th of 2021. I went live with like two other people, and they were all podcasters, and we went live, and it was an amazing event. Like a whole bunch of people like showed up. And soon as I, hit like in show, Podcasters Live was born. I spent like the next 2 days developing the concept. The same people who designed Worthy Retail U and all of my other logos, they developed this logo for me, Podcasters Live, that's right behind me. And within, I think, 4 weeks, we had our first live stream show, and everybody just resonated with the concept. It was podcasters going live, trying to teach podcasters how to live stream so that they can increase their audience, their view, and their influence. And we've just been changing and iterating, ever since then. And it's just been a labor of love, man. I love it. I love talking to people about podcasting. I love talking to people about live streaming, and we sit at that kind of convergence point with people, with a live streamer thinking about podcasting and a podcaster thinking about live streaming, and that's kind of a good sweet spot for us.
Wow, amazing. I love that. And people. I talk about Steve Harvey sometimes, and I tell him that I remember watching him on some show, and he was saying that people think that Steve Harvey showed up where Steve Harvey is, like at the level he is.
Right.
But they don't know about the long nights where he played, bars with two people watching him, or the long bus rides where he and the other comics are kind of going through and just plowing, just doing their thing and just in the grind. And people see Steve Worthy now, and they say, "Man, look at Steve. Look at how he's doing. He's hitting it." But they don't know, or they don't remember all the years of just preparation and the things that you did and things you were doing. And so the question, how did I get here? Right?
Yeah.
Is all that you've been talking about.
That's it. And it's a continuous, I can't use this word because it's overused sometimes, but it's a continuous journey, right? Like I haven't even, so the word here is still like, it's, for me, it just still means movement, because there's still so much stuff that I want to do, that whether it's with Podcasters Live or it's with Worthy Retail U. And so, we are constantly iterating, changing, doing different things, like behind the scenes. Like, I know you and we talked a little bit about our audio podcast for Podcasters Live, how we do things a lot differently than a lot of other people do with the live stream show. But we got so many things in the works that we're going after, that the here is still not a solid destination for us. We're still moving everything along. Hey, Mommy Lala, how are you?
And I love that. Yeah, let's pop it. Hey, Lala, how are you? Mommy Lala was on our show. Was it last Monday, I believe? Yeah. So thanks for stopping by. And so I know this is not part of the show, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I just wanted to show you guys a few things, right? So here it is. I went up and I got it. So like right there.
Boom.
Right.
Boom.
I got right there.
Boom.
Right.
Boom. There you go.
Yeah, I got right there. I know. You guys. Come on. No.
Oh, hold up.
Whoa. Okay.
Come on, man.
I love it. Man, I was passing through. Where were we? We were coming from somewhere recently. And I was like, man, I don't have my hats. And I stopped at the store at the airport. And I'm like, give me one of those.
They're like tourists. He's a tourist.
So I just got all kinds of stuff. So anyway, so I had to throw that up there. But man, so if you had to say to someone who's out there now, okay, these 5 things, or maybe not even 5. I mean, 3, 4, whatever.
Yeah.
This is what you need to be at this point doing if you're interested in becoming a successful podcast. And we talked about the niche. We talked about practicing. Yeah. What else can you tell us?
Oh, number 1 is listening to podcasts. You don't know. I don't know how many people. This is just, I cringe when I hear this. People say they want to start a podcast and they don't listen to podcasts. That is I just don't understand it. It's like, I want to be a cook. I want to be a chef, but I don't like watching cooking shows or something like that. you have to learn how to love podcasts. Like, and I'm sorry because that may seem super absolute, but if you're going to get into this, it is a craft, and you have to learn how to like not just podcasts that you like, but podcasts that are different than yours, that have different industries. They have a different style. They have a different technique. You may not even like that person that you listen to, but man, their freaking podcast is awesome. So I think number one would be, learn how to start liking and listening to as many podcasts as you possibly can. I would also start to write down your thoughts on some of the topics that you really want to talk about. And then I would run some of those topics past people who really know you, and say, "Hey, does this feel right if I talk about this?" And I'm like, "Nah, dude, that sucks. That doesn't even fit you." Or you can get somebody like myself. You can get a coach or whatever it is, somebody to help you work through some of your concepts and some of your ideas about it, whatever it is that you want to talk about. And then you want to figure out, your messaging. What do you want to, I guess within that process, kind of what do you want to stand for? As you can see, I haven't even spoken about equipment yet. I haven't spoken about platform yet. That's down the line, right? But what it is, how long, what are some of the things that you truly want to talk about, after you've like kind of dug a little deeper. And then once you've kind of done some of those things, now we can start talking a little bit about the audio. We can start talking about the platforms that you want, that and the tools and resources that you could possibly use to actually record your actual podcast. But listen to as many podcasts as possible. Start taking some of the good pieces that you like. Get with somebody that you can bounce some certain ideas off of. Start practicing your concepts, your ideas once you get a decent microphone, and then you can start talking about hosting and frequency and all those other things. Those are down the line pieces, but those are probably my top three, if you will.
Man, those are amazing. I love that. I'm writing those down, and so Steve and I we've been talking, and he told me I need to say something on air, but I'm gonna go to these comments first. So we've got Cher Jones. Hey, Cher, thank you for coming through. Love it. She said, great conversation, guys. Thank you for being here. Mavi Lala says, I love learning how to do podcasts. I have Roy at Tech Troublemaker and Steve at Podcasters Live for inspiration. Yeah, definitely. And guys, if you've not done so, Mami Lala, just go over to Mami Guide Inc. She does a great job over there. So I've been talking to Steve, and we know each other, and he years ago when we first met actually said, hey, you need to be doing this. So I told him.
I did.
I told him, because here I'm gonna say it. So this episode is gonna be the first one that I'm gonna convert to a podcast. Okay, so I said, there you go. So so he's put I told him this in the back, and he said, no. Don't. He said, no, don't slip in there. He said, you got to say this live on air. So Mami Lala, you heard me. Steve heard me. You guys who are watching, Cher, you heard me. So this is going to be the first one that we're going to do. So
I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited. You got a great voice, first and foremost. And then your content, dude, listen to me, dude. Your content is so you. It's so Dwayne. Like when I even listen to your shorts that are actually on YouTube, you come across like, I'm like, dang, this dude just he just crushing it. Like I don't even have that issue, but I want to have that issue so he can treat me, or at least he can talk to me about it. Maybe I don't want to have it, but I'm so serious, man. This is not, I ain't planning on saying any of this. But when you speak with such authority, like in your shorts, but also in your live streams, that the level of confidence that you have when people hear that, not just on a live stream, but when they start to hear that in the audio aspect of it, it's just going to resonate with them even more, because when people don't have confidence in what they're saying. We see it, we've heard it, And I'm not saying that there's something completely negative about it, because people can build up to that, but you already have that. So I think the transition from you doing this to actually, even recording some of your own, audio episodes, I think it's just going to be a smooth transition. And I think I told you this already. I think you're going to fall in love with the audio side even more than this. I'm putting money on it. I'm putting money on it.
Well, man, I thank you. Thank you for those kind words. I really, and it really gives encouragement. So I appreciate that. Thank you for those words.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's see. Okay, Sharon has a question. She said, "Wow, you get the air horn." That's right. That's right. I get that. I love it. Love it, man. Steve, so this has been amazing, man. I thank you for coming through. And I hope we can do some more things together.
I agree.
I think it's gonna be amazing. Why don't you take a minute and tell people how can they connect with you? Where are you? Where can they find you? Let's put that up now.
Yeah. The interesting thing it doesn't matter what I do, whether if I'm talking on the show about podcasting, I invariably start talking about leadership. Or if I'm on a show talking about leadership, I invariably will start talking about podcasting. And so, we came up with this area, this platform. It's called AskSteveWorthy.com, and you can connect with us there for Worthy Retail U. If you are that leader that's struggling and thinking about a little bit more where you are and want to understand where you need to go, we are there to help you with that. And also from a Podcasters Live standpoint, we inject a little bit of that leadership mindset into helping you understand, once again, who you are as a person, because that is going to come across on your live stream and also in your podcast as well. So either way, you can connect with us at AskSteveWorthy.com.
Awesome, man. Thank you. And I almost don't want this to end. So hang out for a minute.
Let's do it, man. I'm good.
Let's close out the show and then hang out for a minute. We'll talk in a minute. Okay.
Absolutely, man.
All right. Wow. What an amazing conversation we've been having with Steve Worthy about how he got here. And we actually came up with that. We were doing our tech check and we were talking and he's like, man, that's a great idea for the show, the title for the show. But listening to his story, I'm hoping that you are getting the sense that wherever you are right now, right? And that's the focus of this month's videos that I'm doing. People who are doing their thing in their space, wherever they find themselves, right? It may not be perfect. It may not even be where they want it to be. But they're in a space right now and they are doing that. And our month has been an amazing month. This is where, so far, this is where we've been, right? This is just the first week, y'all. These are the people who came on, right? And next week, it's going to be off the chain. So I want you to make sure that you're coming back, that you are staying with us, that you're watching these videos. We're on day number 10 now, okay? And as I've been saying, if you find this logo anywhere on anybody's content, make sure you get out there and support them. And it may not be something that you normally listen to or normally watch, but right now, the content creators in this month are expanding, they're growing, they're evolving, they're tweaking, and all of that is with the intention that we provide and present better content, and that we can solve problems for you guys and for me as well. Because, Steve, right. So he's helping me with some stuff right now. But anyway, I thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming by. If you've not already done so, go ahead and give us a thumbs up on this video. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel. And what we haven't done yet is our amazing question wheel. So let's hop over there real quick and get that going. All right, so if you've been here, you know about our amazing question wheel. If you don't, this is what it is. You see on the screen some questions on our wheel. I'm going to spin the wheel, and it's going to land on a question. Whatever it lands on, I have to answer. And these are the rules. It has to be a real answer. It has to be usable. It has to be practical. It has to be concise. So concise, in fact, that I have to answer it in 45 seconds. That's right, 45 seconds. Once I do that, I'm going to clip that out. I'm going to create a reel, create a short, whatever you want to call it on the platforms. We're going to put it out, and I want you to go find it. And when you find it, in the comments, I want you to put hashtag I was there. So right there, Dwayne Wood MD. Dwayne Wood MD. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever, right? Just find the content and go ahead and put hashtag I was there in the comments. So let's go ahead and let's spin the wheel and let's see what question we're going to answer tonight. Round and round and round it goes. Where it stops, I don't know. What should I know about ketones? What should I know about ketones? That is actually a good question. So let's see, what should I know about ketones? Let me get my thoughts together. And what should I know about ketones? Okay, here we go. 45 seconds on the clock. What should I know about ketones? So ketones are a waste product that the body produces when it cannot burn sugar. High blood sugar and diabetes, that's the issue, right? So when the body can't burn sugar, it starts burning fat. And when it burns fat, it produces ketones. And ketones are kind of like the exhaust from your car. Not good for the body. And so when blood sugars are high, we tell our patients they should check their ketones, check their urine for ketones. Trace or small ketones, not a problem. But if they become moderate or large, then you've got to make sure that you are drinking water, taking your insulin, and contacting your healthcare provider. All right, I think I did it. All right. Love it. So anyway, so yeah, guys, so go make sure you get out there and make sure you find that, and then hashtag I was there. I love that you guys are here. If you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and put hashtag replay. Pass this on to your family, to your friends. Let them know. If you know anybody who's interested in podcasting, this is a perfect show for them to watch. And then make sure you get over to Steve Worthy and begin consuming his content. And if you're interested in a coach, that's right there, right? He just gave you all the information on how to contact him. This is Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. And here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, create the life you've always wanted, and go to the next level. We'll see you tomorrow at the next episode.